Hello, everyone. I'm Remy.
I'm Lucas.
And I'm Casey.
Welcome back. This is day 3 of the Day One's Discourse. Today for you guys, we're going to be talking about some superpowers that we consider to not be necessarily overpowered or something that you would find in a comic book. However, extremely useful in our daily lives, and we're all going to be kind of giving our pitch on what the best of those categorical superpowers is, and then we're going to be voting on which one out of us all of us would have to take besides our own, and then if we have any more time, we'll get into a list of super strange superpowers that we found online that's kind of funny. So yeah, why don't we just get right into it?
All right. I guess I'll start. So the one that I would do would be be able to open anything with a knob.
So does that mean cabinets and armoires and stuff like that, but not like a chest?
A turning knob. So any door that has a handle that can turn. Now hear me out. Most places you can get into, it can be a locked door too. Just you're able to open any door with a knob. That's about it. I just think it'd be cool. You could just walk around.
What are you practically going to do with this? What, Casey?
Okay, if you
accounting major,
picture this. You forget your keys for your house. You get locked out of your house. You're stuck outside. Boom, doors open.
Boom. Your superpower is literally useless if you lock your keys in your car.
Hey, I think I hit the subject on the head here, okay?
Well, yeah, you couldn't open your car door because it's not a knob that you could turn.
So what?
I think you should have just said all doors. I think you should have just said any doors, any cabinets, any chests, anything along those lines you can open.
Well, I didn't want it to be too overpowered.
Well, at this point, yours is basically like the average locksmith, so...
Yeah, what you can do with your superpower, most people could do with a lockpick, all right? So
Casey, you're literally just describing someone's literal job. Why don't you just, if you're that interested in it, why don't you just take that as a career path?
Okay. I didn't know it was Destroy Casey Day. All right. What's yours, Remy?
All right, my superpower would be to be just barely better than average at everything. So basically, you're jack of all trades. So I am not good at anything. I am not good at playing any sport. So me in real life, but I'm not good at playing any sport. I'm not really good at but I am better than the average person at whatever I do.
I would actually like that, because then you could just do things and people would be like, yeah, he's all right.
Yeah, they're never gonna be like, oh, he's terrible at that. Like you're never gonna go golfing with someone and then just be like, oh my gosh, why did we bring him along?
You'll never disappoint anyone. You if anyone wants you to do anything, you'll be like, yeah, I can do that.
It's actually got some low key tropes that make it really good as well.
Yeah. Considering
that you're gonna be just funnier, just barely funnier than the average person. Yeah. You're gonna be just barely charismatic, more charismatic than the average person. Or you're gonna be just barely smarter or something along those lines. I don't know.
But that comes into think if you really loved doing something, you would never be good at it. Oh, God. You would never be the best.
Remy, that's kind of brutal, dude.
That would suck so much. Literally. Oh, I'm just trying to think about the things that literally you'd want to do so bad, but you just couldn't do.
Think about your career. Remy, so you want to give everyone kind of a little insight into what you want to do for a career?
Yeah, so I would love to be somewhere in the medical field, like a PA or a doctor or even an astronaut for that matter, if I could even get to that point. But that would be my future career. And, I would never be the best surgeon in the world saving everyone's lives. I'd save more than the average surgeon, but not good enough to be the best surgeon. Or, I would just be barely good enough than the average astronaut, but I'd never be the first pick to go to Mars.
Yeah. So essentially, if you want to be an astronaut, you go through the program and everything, but you're not the final pick. If you want to be a surgeon, you have about a 60% success rate. Just very, very average.
You could actually, I'm thinking of a way, there's actually a way you could get around this, though.
What?
You say, would it be on like word, like would it depend on your verbiage? I'm asking about like what you'd be just barely better than average at, because you could say, well, hey, if I want to be really good at tennis, all you have to do is say, rather than, hey, I'm better than the average tennis player, you'd say, hey, I want to be better than the average professional tennis player.
No, it just comes to
it's like astronauts, because astronauts are like the top 0.01% of all like astrobiologists or whatever, that like how Remy wants to be like an astrophysicist or an astrobiologist or something along those lines. You could say, well, heck, I'm just a normal one. But at that point, all I have to do is raise my standards and say, I want to be better than the average astronaut. And then all of a sudden, boom, you're better than all the average astrophysicist by a long shot. And all of a sudden, you're into this upper tier of like, oh, well, now I'm an astronaut because I'm automatically better than everyone else.
Well, the way I would see that superpower coming in, it would be like you're better. Like if you take a topic, you're better than the average person at it, but you can't be like, I'm better than the best of that topic, if that makes sense. So yeah, you'd be the better than the average astronaut or better than the average astrophysicist, but you wouldn't be like better than the average professional tennis player. You'd just be better than the average tennis player.
It essentially, like pulling it into tennis, it essentially be like you can make it to the qualifiers of some big tournaments, but you never go past that. You can't beat anyone past that. You get the $10,000 from winning some qualifiers, and then that's all you're ever gonna be.
But if you think about it, would you like in those matches? Would you, if you played against like a top tier person, would you lose that? Because
well, it's fair that you say just better than average. That's just got some unexpected caveats to it, honestly. I feel like there's a way that you could definitely jerry-rig the system to make you the best at everything at that point. I think it honestly comes down to your verbiage and kind of like what limits you decide to set on the power.
If you're setting it just to physical performance, I think that would be the equalizer between everything, just the ability to perform whatever you want to do. Like that would be what makes you average at it. But like you said, if you're going off of if you're basing it off of who you want to be better than, like I want to be better than
like a classification of people.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense, because then at that point you can say like, oh, well, I want to be better than the average person at tennis, period. Not I want to be better than the average professional tennis player.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, and then you can go into like, more than the average person about certain subjects, or you'd be better than the average person at doing research, but you're not necessarily like, if you just took an average person in whatever field or aspect that would be, you're just going to be slightly better than them, but you're not instantly slightly better than them. You'd still have to like actually put in the effort. It's like you just gain the knowledge instantly. It's like you'd still have to, put in the effort to learn those things, and at the end your end product would be slightly better than the average person. So you'd get a better grade than the average person on a test, because that's just who you are as a natural person.
That is brutal. That's terrifying, because like if then you have to also work to just be barely better than average at everything, that's basically like what a normal human can already do. Yeah. Like if you want to be better than average at anything, like if you want to be better than average at tennis, you just have to practice. I thought you were explaining
it's easier for you. So you're able to pick up the stuff so much faster than everyone else to be better than everyone, the average person. So it's not like you pick up a tennis racket and you instantly know everything about tennis necessarily, but when you start playing tennis, you're better than the average person.
I think honestly to equalize your power, because at that point your power is like very, very underpowered. So I would say something along the lines of when it comes down to actually comparing them, I think we should just give you the benefit of the doubt and say that we're going to be taking you're automatically better than average at everything.
Because there's a lot of scenarios where that would be really useful, and then there's some that would suck. Yeah. So yeah. Lucas.
Alrighty. So mine, I've actually talked about this with a ton of the guys up in my fraternity, and they always make fun of me for it because they think it's not actually that cool, but I think it would be absolutely amazing. But the ability to never have to sleep and never get tired, like mentally tired, or like not necessarily even like physical stamina tired, but just tired from the average day of doing things. So you'd never feel tiredness. And I think this would be really cool because with those extra 8 hours a day, I mean, like Remy mentioned in the last podcast, you're spending a third of your life asleep, basically, if you're sleeping like the recommended 8 hours per day. So all of a sudden you get 8 hours more to go devote to anything that you want. So say like during the day, I talk about this all the time in relation to like living actually in a fraternity, because then rather than, during the day when I'm working on all like my mechanical engineering homework and like that kind of stuff, I would get to hang out with all the guys during the day while they're hanging out. And then at night, while everyone else is sleeping, then I could start on my homework. And then I'd have more than enough time as well to pick up a new hobby. So, and think about that. You have 8 hours of being completely, basically undisturbed from the rest of the population to devote to whatever you want. So you could read as many books as you want during that time. You could go pick up as many different hobbies, talents, anything along those lines. So I think it'd be super cool because it basically give you a third more life than everyone else would.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, if you think about it, a third of your life, you spend 8 hours a day sleeping. And you live to be 60 years old. 20 years of your life you spend sleeping. So if you think about it, logistically, that is quite good. Yeah. And a few of the issues I'd see with it is, a lot of stuff is closed after about 11 o'clock at night and doesn't open until about 8 o'clock in the morning. So that does limit some of your hobby picking up stuff. So you wouldn't be able to just go out and like go into a shooting range and go shooting if you're interested in guns, or you wouldn't be able
to go like rock climbing at a rock climbing gym or to be closed or something along those lines. However, then it would allow you to say you had something along the lines of like a stay-at-home job. Then it would allow you your full day of daylight to basically have access to anything in the world that you want to go devote your time to. And then say rather than working your 8-hour shift during the day, you'd work it at night. And I think this would be like, honestly, if I got access to this power right away, I'd probably go with something along the lines of like a computer programmer, coding, something along those lines, just because that is like a job that people can pretty frequently work from home with like certain employers.
So with this, can you become physically tired? Like, say you wanted to like perfect a sport, could you like?
Oh yeah, you can become physically tired. It has no effect on like your actual physical endurance, strength, stamina, like all those kind of categorical things to do with like fitness. However, you can't get physically tired from just like how if you've ever been traveling and you'll have a red-eye flight and you've stayed up the whole night and the whole day, and just from the flight alone and the traveling and just like the walking, it's not extraordinary any amount of like walking distance or anything along those lines, because you're actually in fact spending a lot of time sitting, but you come home feeling physically tired as well, just slightly, just from like that mental aspect of doing a lot in the day. So when you kind of delete that mental aspect of it, I'm assuming that then also that kind of physical aspect of it would kind of correlate as well.
Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense.
Well, there's also like the question of, say, it would be cool if you had the power, but say your spouse or like your girlfriend or boyfriend had that power and they don't need to sleep anymore and they couldn't sleep next to you at night. What impact would that have on your relationship?
Yeah. One of those like little tiny like social monkey paws almost, where it's like kind of the backhanded curse of then you kind of miss out on that, not necessarily social interaction in the sense of like you're communicating a whole lot, but just like one of those social tendencies or connections. So yeah, that would definitely be kind of something that you'd have to think about beforehand. However, for me, it wouldn't necessarily like make a difference, because a lot of couples, like if you have bad back problems and say your spouse doesn't, you may require a different mattress to them, which then forces you to sleep in a different room or a different mattress, something along those lines. So, you can miss out on that anyways. So overall, I think that the whole sleeping idea would be pretty cool. So,
well, it'd also be kind of a cool idea because, if you and your spouse ever had a kid, your spouse can just take care of the kid when they're awake, and then when they're sleeping, you can take care of that kid. And there's never the issue of, babe, you get up and take care of the kid, but babe, I gotta work in the morning, I can't be tired for work. It's just I'll go take care of him, you get your full night's rest, it's not that big of an issue. And then you create a deeper bond with your child because you're the one staying up with them.
Plus, honestly, you can get, you could use this so heavily to your advantage in terms of success in the workplace as well, because then all of a sudden, while your colleagues are having to sleep at that point, you could be putting in 8 extra hours into to learning whatever you want, studying, researching, observing, anything along those lines. So it'd be something that's super, super useful.
Well, and also, it would make getting more degrees in school so much easier, because then you could do like say you're at a job you wanted to go into as a kid, and you found out you don't like it, but you can't stop the job because you need money, but you can't go to school because you need to sleep at night. Well, now you can go to night school and go to your job in the morning, and then eventually get that degree to change whatever job you're in.
Yeah, there's so much you could do with that. Literally, like you said, in school would honestly right now, if I had that, be the biggest thing for me.
Amazing.
It would change everything, because you're always just stressing about not having enough time to do things, and you want to have a social life. You want to do other things rather than just school. So having that'd be insane.
I mean, yeah, especially in college, like one of the biggest things that I have problems with is trying to, like you said, fit everything in. Because then it comes into play of like, how much time am I going to be putting into schoolwork? And if I want to get this GPA, then obviously I'm going to have to sacrifice on other aspects of my life. So that's campus involvement, or that's for me like involvement in my fraternity, or involvement in the grand social life that like you would have. And then you also have to like take into play. It would allow you to have access to go play like more intramurals and stuff like that in college as well. So.
Another really unfortunate thing about that superpower would be if you ever got sick, you'd never just be able to fall asleep and just ignore the fact that you're being sick. Or, would the healing process take longer because you're not sleeping and taking that restful sleep, So that could be a very negative impact if you get sick often.
Yeah. To balance it out, I honestly say, for the sake of argument, Remy brings up a really good point, so we should factor that into play, that it would make, let's say, all of the time, like every single time you got sick, let's say for the sake of argument, now with this superpower, your sickness lasts, 75% longer, or 50% longer, or 100% longer.
Yeah. Okay. So, voting time. In my defense, real quick, I just want to say my superpower has no negative effects. So, you just get to open doors.
If security systems still see you, like, breaking into a door if you decide to use your superpower outside of the law.
That's only if.
Also, the other worst part about your superpower is that it's completely useless in day-to-day activities. So I'd say that's a pretty big negative there.
Okay.
How often, Casey, have you ever desperately wanted to get inside of a door and been completely and utterly enabled by all use of your resources?
Yeah, okay, that's a fair point. All right, let's vote. All right. Who thinks my superpower is the best one?
All right, we're going to make the caveat as well. You can't vote for your own.
Okay. One, please. Okay. No. So I lose. Who votes for Rebby's? What was your superpower?
Mine was a jack of all trades.
Yes,
being able to pick up anything and be instantly better than the average person at it.
For me, out of Casey's and Remy's, I'm going to go with Remy's.
So I guess I technically have the deciding vote right now.
Yes, you technically have the deciding vote.
Oh man. Holy cow.
Would you rather not be able to sleep yeah.
Honestly, I'd have to go with not sleeping.
Yes! Let's go!
And there's just so much to that you could do. You could add so much to your life. So I'd definitely choose that.
Awesome.
Well, we can probably end it here.
Yeah, I think it's getting into our final segment. So we're going to go into this week's 3 song recommendations. Casey, I started off last week. So do you want to start us off this time?
Sure. All right. This one's a heavy one.
Oh, you have to mention this.
Yeah. So this is a song, just definitely a heartbreak kind of song. It hits you really hard if you can relate to it, at least. It's called Happiest Year by Jaymes Young, and it's brutal. When
the instrumentals to it, I mean, the song is just a beautiful song, whether or not you can relate to it, because I mean the instrumentals are just absolutely perfect, and then the actual lyrics are just poetry. So I mean, his
voice is amazing too. So it just makes the song.
Yeah, I would definitely agree.
All right, Remy.
I'm gonna have to do a throw out to my favorite band of all time, which is called the band CAMINO, and the song I'd choose is "Who Says We're Through." It's kind of a fun song. It's not really about breakup, but it kind of is. But it's kind of like not giving up on someone even in the worst times. So it's a really fun song, really upbeat, and kind of a good listen.
Alrighty. For this week's song, I'm actually going to give a big old shout out to Apple Music for recommending this on my For You playlist.
Not a sponsor.
Yeah, definitely not a sponsor. However, that's just the music platform that I use. So this one's called Second Guesses by Carling. I don't know. It's melodic and it's a fun song. So yeah, go give it a listen.
Sweet. Well, that's it for today. Feel free to reach out to us on our social medias, the Day One's Discourse on Facebook and Instagram, and at the Day One's Disc on Twitter. Feel free to ask us anything, and we might actually talk about it. So
we likely will.
Yeah,
So,
probably.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah,
all right,
really
see ya.
appreciate it. See you next week.